911, what's your emergency?
God, there's a train that just hit a car.
Sir, what is your location? Look around for a street sign, sir.
It's 8th and Orchard. 8th and Orchard.
Okay, very good. 8th and Orchard. Sir, help is on the way.
Why would you do that? The train still doesn't stop. You have to get there now.
At a railway crossing, even if the engineer sees you and hits the brakes, it can take a mile for the train to stop. And for you, that's too late. Stop. Trains can't. Paid for by NHTSA.
Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anajar and Levine studios.
This is Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690 with Brent Martineau and Austin Lane.
The vibes were immaculate.
I think it's easy. I think it's 31-13. The Jags win this game going away.
Yeah. They score more than 14 points in this game. With Deshaun Watson out on the field, that team is terrible. Yeah. I think last year's Jags could beat this year's Houston team by 10.
I can't believe I got to say this, but Jaguars.
Until the team took the field.
Ingram, left side, touchdown. So David Johnson alongside Taylor in the backfield on their 3rd and 4. This side, end zone, touchdown Johnson. Lawrence on 2nd and 13. Breaks a tackle, throwing on the run and overthrown and intercepted. Lawrence on 2nd and 9 at his goal line and throwing and intercepted again at the 25-yard line. That's Hargrave. Ingram giving the ball, touchdown, Philip Lindsay.
I think the self-inflicted, we had 7 penalties in the first 3 or 4 drives. I thought removing the ball, I thought, and then all of a sudden you look up and you see that damn penalty flag, and so it just, and somewhere just, it just can't happen.
Just an overall sloppy performance from this offense. 1 second and 1. That pass is intercepted right in the middle of the field.
Suffering. But I understand if Jacksonville loses to Houston week 1, I'm going to overreact. I'm going to freak out, and that's going to be me.
Please tell me there's like a crescendo orchestra-driven music to this that somehow goes up and there's a finishing. There's like a to be continued in that open later on that we see the jubilous and victorious Jaguars down the road. Nice job, Casey Kurtz. Get us in the mood for the show.
And spoiler alert, I was listening to that song. There is no... That was as high as it gets.
That's as good as
nothing
it gets.
But bumming. Yeah, it's nothing but a bummer from there. So
well, I don't think what we saw yesterday in Houston is as good as the Jags will get, but I also don't know if it will get that much better that we need orchestra music with a crescendo. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
So wow, what a disappointment in Houston for everybody here in Jacksonville and beyond. Not very much in the silver lining department, the sunshine and rainbows department coming out of that one. Just a thumping by the Texans, and nobody thought that was possible, which is dumb because it's the NFL, and we know the Jags beat the Colts last year and all that stuff, which we all said, but we didn't want to believe. But still, nobody thought that was going to happen. Just run out of the gym. And the Jaguars were run out of the gym, played awful football. Brent Martineau live at Sneakers. We have Jags Report live tonight. Jihad Ward's going to join us for the first time, first edition of 2021. So we have that coming up 7 o'clock on Fox 30. So I'm here throughout the afternoon. Ready to go for that. Austin Lane back in the Action Sports Jax studios along with Casey on just a wild weekend in sports, right? I mean, from FSU Saturday night to the Jags yesterday. Imagine if you're an FSU and Jags fan, Austin.
Yeah, it's not a good Monday for you. I can only imagine because we cover FSU. I'm not the biggest FSU fan, but, I cover the Jaguars as well. And, once again, I don't want to be overreactionary and everything, but I feel like that game against the Texans, you have a right to be overreactionary. I think you have a right to be questioning what has gone on. I think you have a right to question where's this team going to go in the future. I really do.
I think you're right. You don't get too many deeply concerning tweets from Brent on week 1, right, over the years. And there's a lot that was deeply concerning. And let's just jump right off the rip that we are now like 3 or 4 minutes into this show, and we haven't called the timeout, so we're already doing better than the Jags.
Yeah.
I mean, they called a timeout, Austin, on the second play, which really they hadn't even run a play because they had a penalty on the first play. I mean, it's unbelievable that they had to use a timeout, and their lineup issues reminded me of, Willie Taggart in Florida State more than any other addition to the Jaguars I've seen.
So there's a lot to break down of this game, and then there's a lot to be critical of. And it would be one thing if we come here after the first, NFL regular season game and we say, okay, maybe, the scheme wasn't the best. Maybe they got outcoached, yada, yada, yada. And we will talk about those things as well. But from me, what really raised the red flag is when you're supposed to be an offensive-minded team, when there's a sense that you're taking great pride in improving the offense, and your first however many scripted plays, and keep in mind, they're scripted plays, so you've gone over these plays before. Everybody should be on the same page. And the very first play of the game, penalty. The second play of the game, then I believe it was a timeout. And that's what you set the pace with. That's what you set the season expectations with, was that, on scripted plays nonetheless. It's one thing if you got a rookie quarterback and you're maybe in the third or fourth quarter and, it's a tight game and you see something that you don't like and you call timeout then. Okay, so be it. But you should not be calling timeout on the very first drive of the game. You should not be lining up in the wrong spot on the very first play of the game on, once again, scripted plays. That comes down to coaching.
Yeah, it comes down to coaching, and I think there is a little player responsibility. DJ Chark is the guy that lined up wrong, and then a couple plays later had a drop pass. It was a tough start for him in a big year, and I didn't think DJ played well yesterday at all. I mean, he was part of the drop party for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But the lining up stuff is really, it does go back to coaching, head coaching, assistant coaching. Urban Meyer will talk about the units of this football team and how he's got, everybody's in charge of their own unit. Well, he oversees all that, and so he's got to take responsibility for it too. And I just am surprised with an Urban Meyer-led team. I raved all offseason about communication and organization, and I think you have to be a good coach to do all those things. And we know he's been a good coach at the collegiate level. I mean, it's still football. We talked about him last week on the show. It's football, right? I mean, you might line up a little bit differently and you don't have as many plays, but it's football. The preparation, I thought would be a plus for Urban and this team, and it wasn't. It wasn't. They looked unprepared, and that's probably being overly dramatic, but that's the way it came out. They looked like they got out-schemed, out-coached, and everything, and outplayed, of course, and then, therefore, like I tweeted, they got blown out. There's no other way to really dance around that. We're going to debate some things today, but there's no debating that. Like, I can be the most positive guy in town, which I have been for 14 years, and I can't get away from that. I mean, that was right in our face, whether you were at the game, on the sidelines, or watching from your living room, Austin.
Absolutely. And another thing as well, and once again, I'm not even going to bring up the scheme right now or what the goal was. I'm just stating facts of what I saw. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't even have a 3 observations video after the game because people don't need my opinion on what happened in that game. I mean, everybody watched it. Everybody was talking about it on Twitter. You don't need my expert opinion right after the game for that one. It just didn't look good. And once again, I promised myself that, all right, I'm going to stop swearing in football games, especially in front of my son. Not more than 8 minutes into the first quarter, said a bad word. Son heard it. Son told mom. Then I was in trouble. Literally the first game of the first quarter, and I'm in trouble at home because that's where we are right now with the Jacksonville Jaguars. But another thing, and once again, I don't want to get into scheme right now, and I don't want to get all this stuff. People, and I did a fantasy football podcast a couple weeks ago, and they're asking me, all right, there's a lot of guys that like on the Jaguars. Who you taking? And to me, when it comes to coaching and when it comes to game planning, especially your first game of the NFL season, you go with the unknowns because you have to be black and white here. There's the unknowns and there's the knowns. Now, the unknowns. Well, how well is Trevor Lawrence going to handle his first NFL game? Okay. How well is DJ Chark going to do coming off that finger? Okay. How well is Laviska Shenault going to do with a much larger role now in this offense? Okay, we'll see. How is Marvin Jones going to do playing with a new quarterback? Okay, we'll see. Those are all the unknowns. The one known that I do know for a fact is that James Robinson was the most dependent guy on this team last year. And that James Robinson gave you no reason not to trust him again this year. Now, I get it. The game got out of hand quick. It was 14-0 before you could even blink. But to have James Robinson only have 5 carries, and on those 5 carries get 25 yards, last time I checked my math class, that's an average of 5 yards per carry. But for him to only have 5 yards, 5 attempts, is baffling. And we even talked about this, I think it was on Friday, where we said, okay, we can maybe see Trevor throw. I don't need to see Trevor Lawrence throw 51 times a game. Now, the game got out of hand, and I get it, you had no choice. But you're going to be very naive, and you're going to be very delusional if you expect this team to win a lot of ball games if you're throwing the ball 50 times a game, because they're not built for that, and there's no way they can sustain that.
Yeah, and Urban Meyer said that today, and I have a thought on that, Austin. I know people are wrapped up in those numbers today. I don't know exactly the point of the game. I want to say it was maybe around the mid-second quarter, though. And so you're talking about some 20 to 25 minutes into the game, and they were on a pace that I think they wanted to be on. They were like 8 of 14. The problem was they were at 8 of 14 passing. They were going 3 and out in some of those, right? And then the score started to pile up. And then, so you're right. I think you just alluded to it. I think most people know this. He threw it 51 times because the score kind of dictated that in the second half, and they never just said, hey, we're going to run and get out of here. They just kept battling and calling timeouts and all this stuff. And maybe that's good. I don't know. He ends up with 332 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But I just don't think, like, it's one thing to me where it's like it's the game plan, which is just chuck it all over the yard. I didn't see that. I thought they threw it a little bit more early than I thought they might. But when they ran the ball, they got behind the sticks so much, so I'm going to defend them a little bit that, I mean, we don't want to see 2nd and 16 run plays, do we? So we get to 3rd and 13. I mean, we've seen that plenty of time over the years. I just thought the score and the penalties mostly dictated more than the play calling to get to 51 and 5 for James Robinson. I did think James Robinson wasn't playing enough in the early going of that game. I saw more Carlos Hyde, but I thought both guys ran pretty well when given the opportunity. The unfortunate part is there were holding penalties on a couple of their best runs. And then you look up at the scoreboard, it's 27-7. I do think at 27-7, you got to be a little careful how much you run the football if you're going to try to climb back into it.
So you're saying that you're cool with James Robinson running only 5 times in that game?
No, I'm not cool with it, but I do think the story dictated it a little bit more than that was the plan. I think if we're going to be like, well, I can't believe you only gave it to him 5 times. Well, they also tried to throw it to him some, and he dropped some. So I think.
But my whole point is that if James Robinson has been your constant, and once again, constant in the running game. Now, I get it. Last year, you count him as a receiver as well. But James Robinson's a between the tackles runner. So if you mean to tell me that you start the game going 3 and okay, whatever, so be it. You had a different wrinkle. It didn't work out. But then you don't constantly go back to James Robinson. You don't go back to the guy where we can unequivocally say he's probably the most consistent guy on your team right now. He's the most sure thing, and you don't get him involved in the offense?
Yeah, listen, it's fair game because it's out there. I also thought they got the ball to Laviska Shenault early, and then I saw him again in like the third quarter, and I said to the person next to me, where's Laviska Shenault been? Did they take him away, or did they stop going to him? Because they did a nice job early on when the game was still, like a normal game of getting Laviska Shenault the ball in different ways, and then they didn't for a while. So, I think you can be critical of that as well. I think would we feel better today is the question. Is when they were down 37-14, if they had got James Robinson 10 more carries in the second half but lost 37-14, would we feel better that he carried it 15 times? I just don't know if that's the main story for me coming out of here, is that James Robinson got 5 carries, because there's not a part of me, and maybe I'm in denial, Austin, that thinks that's going to be the case. I think they are going to get him the football way more than that. I think he is going to be way more productive. I just think nobody in their right mind thought it would be 27-7 at halftime.
Okay, I mean, for me personally, I would feel better if you got the ball more in the hands of the guy that rushed over for 1,000 yards last year. That I know is the sure thing. Once again, I'm not sure. Everyone want to talk about Laviska and how he's going to look this year in fantasy football. I had no idea what Laviska was going to do in this offense. I'll be honest with you. Now, he had some great moments, right? You wish he would have got the ball more, like you said. But coming down to it, at the end of the day, if you had to slow the game down a little bit and at least set up some sort of balance, then so be it. I would have much rather have seen that from the get-go as opposed to just running, passing it all over the field.
Yeah, I was surprised even in the early going, to echo your point, that they were throwing as much. Now, it looked like they used some of those screen play, almost like New England does at times, empty backfield and other things to get the ball in the receiver's hands quick, kind of some of the stuff they did with Dallas, that I think are effective almost as running plays that's kind of the new age in the NFL. Buffalo does it. The Patriots do it. I think we do see it at the collegiate level. Like, okay, it might not be a handoff, but I mean, to your point, first of all, it's inexcusable 5 carries. Whether it's game dictated that, well, that's because the game was so out of reach and they should never be that far out of reach, or because they intentionally just didn't call the plays. You're not wrong. I know that's been a big talking point. I think situationally, though, that's not going to be the case going in. I don't think Trevor's going to throw it 51 times. I don't. I mean, they're going to be trailing big time in a lot of ball games if he's going to throw it 51. I do think Josh Allen might throw it like 40-something times a game for Buffalo, given where he is at his career. So,
but even he doesn't do that. I mean, Josh Allen, if you go to the game logs, he's usually averaging 30-something throws a game, if that.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, and Patrick Mahomes,
sure.
You name it. I think some quarterbacks are going to throw it that much, and we talked last year, Ben Roethlisberger. You don't want to throw. Everybody knows they don't want to throw it 51 times. I think the question is did they need to try to come back the way they came back, or just kind of, all right, let's get the heck out of here. We stink today, which nobody wants to do that, but that's the case. My number one concern, Austin, is why can't you line up in the NFL? I mean, that is a major issue for me. And, Austin, this was not a problem in the preseason. And by the way, what people did not see, and maybe you saw it, Austin, the defense was just as confused at times. Here's the news flash. The defense does not get penalties for being confused and not lined up correctly. But the defense had substitutions going on and off the field, people pointing their fingers again. I actually noticed that quite a bit. I don't know if the TV would show as much.
No, I mean, yeah, you could definitely tell guys, were a hair late of where they're supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised there weren't more broken big plays because of that. To the Jags' credit, they didn't have a lot of those. I mean, the Hail Mary, the big run by Tyrod Taylor, they had some. But it wasn't because I think a guy was misaligned. But I was concerned on the defensive front, too. Again, you don't get penalties for that. But if you did, because you weren't lined up where you're supposed to be, I think the Jags probably noted a bunch of those today in their film room session.
No, and this is something that, I alluded to months ago, where if there was going to be an issue, it was going to be guys getting lined up properly, because this is going to be a defense that's going to be a little more confusing. It's not your vanilla 4-3 defense that maybe you're accustomed to running in other places. This is a defense that it requires your attention, it requires the calls, and it requires to blitz out of things sometimes as well. And you saw confusion. Now, I don't know, Brent. It's there. I don't really know what the solution would be. Coming from, let's be honest. When we consider, okay, was it too rough in training camp? Well, no, I don't think that was the case, right?
No.
Because they were tagged. Okay, so then do you play more of the starters in training camp? Do you throw more of the offense, and do you throw what you're trying to do on defense more in the preseason games? Well, then maybe. We sat here and praised, all right, these guys are healthy. These guys are ready to go. Mission accomplished. Everybody's healthy, set aside from Travis Etienne, but everybody else is healthy. Guys are coming in this game week ready to roll. Okay, so you went through the first game, and what do we have to say for ourselves now? And, this is quoting Urban Meyer, you got your butts kicked.
Yeah. Austin, do you think that's going to be a problem, though, or is that something that by week 2 we'll say that they look a little bit more like they know what the heck they're doing? Because I seriously, and I don't mean – this sounds really bad if you're a Jags player or coach, but the last time I remember a team lining up wrong so much was Willie Taggart's Florida State team. And that never changed. That didn't change all year. That was one of the problems with Taggart. I just don't think that's going to be a consistent problem. It was eye-popping to me in week 1, mostly because we didn't even see it in the preseason. You've often said some things you're going to see that will carry over. Well, that wasn't the thing that we saw. This was new that people couldn't line up. Was that DJ Chark not being around the last few weeks? The offensive lineman not being around the last few weeks? Maybe. But I do I would say that stuff is going to get cleaned up because, well, this is the damn NFL and it better be cleaned up.
Yeah, if we're talking about the defensive side of the ball, and listen, I get right now Houston wants to praise David Culley as an offensive GM, and so be it. That guy's earned everything he's about to get coming his way in terms of praise, because you took a team that on offense nobody was afraid of. We even had their, one of the reporters calling and say, it's going to be low scoring season, and and then they drop 37 points on us, like it was nothing. Like it probably could have been more, set aside from a Philip Lindsay turnover and all this stuff. But regardless of that, you saw on defense, and we didn't raise the questions of, okay, this team's undisciplined, guys are getting – we didn't see that in the preseason.
No.
But there were signs. How many times did I say, hey, is Tyson Campbell going to be okay in one-on-one coverage? Is he going to get his head around? Well, I saw more Tyson Campbell getting picked on. All right, that was an apparent thing. I mean, the game plan was obvious for the Texans.
Yeah.
You're going to use crossing patterns because the Jaguars were in man coverage, and they're going to say, I bet our wide receivers, whoever they are, Brandon Cooks, and then you had Danny Amendola, who I didn't know was even still in the league. I think he's 50 years old, whatever the case may be. You got guys like that doing crossing patterns saying, I bet our guys – who maybe aren't the most appreciated wide receivers in the NFL, can do crossing patterns all day on your cornerbacks, and you guys can't stop it. And guess what? They couldn't stop it.
Yeah, well, it showed you a glimpse of what teams are going to do. They are going to attack the passing defense of the Jaguars. I think that's crystal clear. I think they're not even – if Houston with Tyrod Taylor is going to sit back there and throw it, and by the way, almost throw for 300 yards, whoo, baby. Look out, Teddy Bridgewater. Look out, Kyler Murray. Look out, Joe Burrow coming in the next few weeks because they ain't even going to try to run against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Well,
so that should be scary for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They got to get some of those things fixed on both sides.
And, hey, let me go ahead and say this right now. I'm going to say it one time, but I want to apologize to the Houston Texans fans and the organization. Because the entire summer, I made fun of you guys. I was all over your Twitter handle, laughing, basking in just the crap show that was the Houston Texans offseason. But lo and behold, you guys shut me up. All right, I'll never talk bad about you guys again because as far as I'm concerned right now, the Houston Texans have the Jacksonville Jaguars number. So I'm sorry, all Texans fans. Tyrod Taylor, I apologize. Danny Amendola, I just made an old joke about you. But, hey, you had a good game. I apologize to the Houston Texans.
Yeah, I owe an apology to Tyrod Taylor, by the way, since we're doing this, because I didn't think he could do what he just did.
Tyrod Taylor or Tyrod Vick?
I mean, he made some fantastic plays. I've debated over the years how good Tyrod Taylor is, and that guy was fantastic yesterday. You got to give him some credit. It wasn't just all Jags, you know. I mean, you do have to give some credit to the Texans. It makes you wonder, will they win more games, or was it just mostly the Jags? But we owe the Houston Texans and Tyrod Taylor an apology. Thanks, Jags. We have to eat crow here in week 1, and we're apologizing to the Texans. Thank you very much. We'll be back live at Sneakers Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously sucks. Like losing's always hard, especially when you feel like you're prepared and had a great week and really think we were ready and just obviously didn't play well. It starts with me. I played really bad tonight, so disappointing for sure. I still believe in this team. I still know what we're capable of, and we did some good things. I mean, you see, we started off with some penalties, 3 and out, but then after that, we had a couple good drives. We're hitting some big plays, and there's a lot of good things there.
Well, that is Trevor Lawrence, and I think there were a lot of good things for Trevor Lawrence. I'm not sure for the rest of the guys, quite frankly. I don't know if I saw enough. But for Trevor Lawrence, I think I did see enough, and that is the one sliver. Oh, man. You know me, I'll try to find a silver lining, but I think we all are doing this. I talked to a lot of people flying back from Houston. A lot of Jags made the trip, and our entire plane last night was filled with Jags fans. Really would have been fun after a win. Instead, it was a plane full of sadness. But I think everyone I talked to is kind of brought up Lawrence. But yeah, he's that. I see that. It's okay as long as he does well. Like as long as we can see some growth there. It's amazing the patience of this fan base. My goodness, the patience of this fan base. But Jags, be careful. Don't ask them to be more patient. Let them be patient on their own if they're going to be. Brent Martineau live at Sneakers at Jack's Beach. We got Jihad Ward on the show coming up tonight. Jags Report Live, the debut 2021. We'll have some fun. As I always say on the TV side of things, man, we get these players. Yeah, I want you to meet Jihad Ward a little bit. We'll try to have some fun with it. I don't want to make every show feel like a funeral when the Jags lose, or there'd be a lot of funerals, over the years. So we'll do that tonight on Fox 30. Jags Report live from Sneakers. Hope you can come out and be a part of it. Austin Lane back in the Action Sports Jack studios. And let's talk a little bit more about Trevor, man. There's a lot that went wrong yesterday, and even Trevor Lawrence was far from perfect. I thought there were some moments in that game where he didn't look that good, quite frankly, and he admitted it too. But there were moments that he did look good, and there were moments that ball gets in there in a hurry. I saw enough to grab a little glimmer of hope that, man, this guy, he's going to be the special guy that this organization needs. My biggest concern is, can they be good around him, and can they do that sooner than later?
No, for sure. I mean, obviously, what was it, 7 drops yesterday? I think it was.
Yeah, at least 6. I think 6 or 7.
6 or 7 drops. Yeah. I mean, he showed flashes. Now, there was some garbage time in the mix as well.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it feels more like the whole Blake Bortles effect all over again in terms of the numbers, per se. But the throws that he did have, yeah, they look crisp. They look on point. Now, he had 3 interceptions. Probably should have been 4 interceptions, which, you know, it's crazy how you go if you had, you know, you went 3 and 3, but if you go 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, like how much worse that would sound.
Yeah.
So there obviously is a lot to clean up. Once again, I think, you know, he was trying to force way too much because he felt like he had to. And that's a testament right now to where the team is at and the offense is at. When you have a rookie quarterback in his very first game trying to force things because, well, he really has to, because that's all he has to do in order to try to salvage some sort of a game. And that's not how it should be your first go-around.
Well, you said it exactly. Like, let's really just set the table and call it like we see it yesterday. Because you go into that game, and we were talking about James Robinson, how much he ran the ball, how much he didn't, the game plan, all that stuff. Well, the game plan was not for Trevor Lawrence to throw it 51 times. It was to utilize his weapons and, you know, move the ball and have sustained drives. That's what everybody wants to do. But it was to protect him a little bit, too, by running the football if they could get in those kind of situations. And so they did not want this to happen. But let's see how it got created. It was veterans lining up wrong. It was veterans in big contract years dropping passes in their hands. It was a score that got way out of hand that then forced him to just naturally, from a competitive standpoint, in my opinion, late in that second quarter and even a bit early in the third, probably press a little bit and try to do a little too much. And I thought the ball sailed on him at times, and he got a little inaccurate in that stretch. I think I tweeted it out, Austin. They went 5 series in a row after the touchdown where I think it was 18 plays for like 37 yards and a pick. And so that wasn't just everybody else. That was a little bit of Trevor, too. And some of the things that he missed. I think from where I sat in the press box, I don't know if this is as apparent on TV, and I didn't watch the broadcast back, but there were some open guys, like a lot, and he hit some of them, but he also missed some of them. And he missed, like, the bigger player, the potential good player. You know, right after they scored the touchdown, Austin, do you remember it was like 34-14, I think? They score the touchdown. There's a 3-and-out, and then there's a ball down the left sideline to DJ Chark. Well, if he hits DJ there, DJ's got 3 steps, and nobody's on that side of the field for Houston. So DJ, I mean, that's like a quick score. Boom, it's now 34-21 or something, you know, whatever it is. And I'm not saying they come back and win. I'm just saying that was a play, like, I think he clearly missed. Now, he got hurried in the pocket a little bit. He actually, like, overthrew it and threw it out of bounds on that play. So, again, this guy was not flawless. He talked about the interceptions, and when you throw 3 picks, well, that's 3 picks, and you can't hide from it. I didn't think there were more plays. There's probably more like 5 to 8 to 10 plays that he wasn't that good on. But I just think we saw enough of some of the touchdown throw to Chark, some of the passes that he zipped in there. The usage of the tight ends was pretty good, Austin. I think they had 7 catches out of their tight ends. You know, if that keeps up, that would be something that we didn't plan on as much, and that would be good. So there's enough there from Trevor. We're going to have to see more. It was not an awful first game, I don't think. It was an awful first game for the Jags, but I come out of it thinking, you know what, this kid's going to be a good player.
I mean, we're not doing the quarterback grades today. I think it was an okay showing.
Yeah.
Maybe an average to okay showing, because And eventually we hope that Trevor Lawrence gets to this point, but you didn't see it on Sunday. Eventually, he's going to have to get to the point maybe where he has to elevate the guys around him. And then, he has to make up for the mistakes a little bit. And you had a guy who pressed a little bit and couldn't make up for all the mistakes, right? And making up for those mistakes caused interceptions, and they caused turnovers. So, you can feel good about the good passes, and that's fantastic, but there was also a lot of throws that he would like to have back as well. So in terms of where does he fall in terms of the other rookie, I'm not even going to compare Trevor Lawrence to the other rookies that I saw play yesterday. All I saw from Trevor Lawrence was it was an okay showing.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And but you have to remember, one thing we have to keep in perspective. I think about this game, and I'm like, okay, Jags, I thought we were going to win. I thought they were going to win pretty easily, actually. I thought they'd come out of the gate strong under Urban Meyer and Trevor and just be better than a Houston team that we think is going to be pretty bad, even though we don't think the Jags are going to be great. So I thought we'd come in here today and we'd be like, if you asked me on Friday, I'd say, hey, we're going to come in after this game. Everybody in town's going to be excited, right? Trevor did some good things. Maybe made a mistake or two. Wasn't perfect. The Jags weren't perfect, but they got a win, and they looked pretty good at times. And so you grab onto that. Yet we all know in our own mind, we're like, okay, Jags are really not that good. They're still like a 6-win team, maybe a 7-win team. That's what I thought we were going to come in here today and be like, remember, this is still all about number 16. This is all about his progress and where he can take this franchise, because it is, win or lose. But now we're coming in here off a loss, like a thumping, not like a late field goal loss, but a thumping. Like you were never in the game in the second half. It was over at halftime to the Houston Texans, who are expected to be just putrid all year. And even if they're good, they're not really good. Like, their good's probably 6 wins. So the whole mentality of what we thought this would be on a Monday is so different. Yet one thing is not different, and that is it's all about Trevor Lawrence. And, hey, listen, there's a lot of improvement to make. Like I said, 5 to 8 to 10 probably plays that just weren't really that good at all. But there were some good plays, and now we have to see where he goes. There are 2 scoreboards to keep track of in 2021, I guess is what I'm trying to say. What the Jags do and what Trevor does. And we'll grade them tomorrow, but what Jags did was an F. Thankfully, I don't think what Trevor did was an exact F, but it also wasn't even close to an A or probably a B.
But here's the thing, though. Isn't Trevor's progress and how we feel about him going to be a direct reflection of how the team is around him? Because, we were quick to throw out Blaine Gabbert and Blake Bortles. You know why? Because, they started losing. There was at one point where Blake Bortles got, we thought he was going to be the guy because what would he happen? He took him to an AFC championship game, and he got a new contract off of it. If this team theoretically wins, 2 or 3 or 4 games, are we going to be sitting here saying, well, at least Trevor Lawrence is good? I feel like there's a bigger picture here.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. There will be an element of that, Austin. I don't know what the win total is, but I know this.
Okay.
I know this. Justin Herbert won 7 games last year, under 500, and we raved about Justin Herbert.
Okay, but let me go and ask you this question, though.
And they had a better team, by the way, too, around him.
Sure. But would you rather sit here on the first Sunday after, NFL Sunday on a Monday and say, oh, well, at least Trevor's okay, or would you rather be like the New York Jets and say, Zach Wilson played okay, but guess what? Our team can compete. Our team, probably could have beat the Carolina Panthers, and we're not sure about the Carolina Panthers either. Would you rather be a team like the Detroit Lions, who, in terms of their roster, look nothing on paper like they should be competitive, and go toe-to-toe with the 49ers? Now, they got some lucky breaks, but go toe-to-toe with a new coaching staff and a new regime? I would rather have that conversation and then include Trevor as opposed to saying, well, yeah, we're going to lose, but Trevor looks good.
Yeah, I would rather be New England and Mac Jones today. I'd rather be Detroit, but would I really rather be Detroit because they scurried a couple touchdowns to get that thing close in the end, and they have Jared Goff? I'm not sure I'm super excited about having Goff. So I don't know.
I'm excited that you almost beat a 49ers team who's probably one of the better teams in the NFC, and you went toe-to-toe with them. I'd be pretty excited.
Yeah, did they, though? They kind of had a miracle comeback in, the last 5 minutes of the game. Is that toe-to-toe? They were down by 41-13 or something.
I don't know, Brent. At the end of the game, it came down to the last play of the drive, and meanwhile I'm watching the Jaguars game in the third quarter saying, well, this is over.
Yeah.
Time to turn on NFL Red Zone.
I feel better about Detroit today than I do about the Jags, yes. I just don't know if you're asking me a trade situation. I'm not even sure. what the situation is with the Jets. Like, I mean, the Jets, okay, they battled. They have a better team maybe, but that's Carolina. How many like Carolina is kind of like Houston. I mean, they might be a 5-win team, right?
I mean, I think Carolina on paper, we think they're going to be better than Houston. I think they have the better quarterback, the better coaching, I think they have better everything. I'm just saying I don't want to come in here every single Monday now and say, teams whatever, but Trevor Lawrence looks good. Like, that's not how the football is supposed to work here. Like, that's not what it's supposed to be about.
Well,
I mean, I guess
it's not supposed to, but it is kind of about that this year.
Call them the Jacksonville Trevors then. Let's go.
Well, I mean, listen, the guy – I just disagree with that. It's not about that. I think it's about two things. Can the Jaguars do better than we think? Well, the answer to that is no. I think then the other side of that is, okay, do we have this guy that's going to be here for a long time? That is a very valuable conversation and a very valuable way to think, I think, if you're in Jacksonville, because you just haven't had that. So, yeah, I think partly, I think they're going to get the doors blown off him against Arizona. But how does he play against the Cardinals? I think that is a topic, yeah. I mean, I really do. On that Monday, that might be the silver lining in it. And by the way, the silver lining is he didn't play great. Yeah, he really didn't. I mean, he could have done a lot better. 3 picks is 3 picks. All right, we'll be back. We talk more about it. Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690. Hey, welcome back. Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690. We're live from Sneakers. Jack's Beach. Jihad Ward will join us for Jags Report Live coming up tonight, 7 o'clock on Fox 30. If you can't make it out here, you can watch on TV. Hope you can do that. We'll talk more Jags. Have some fun as well, though. Hey, we've learned how to have a little fun during Jags losses, Austin. I mean,
yeah.
I will say that I'm just going to be honest with you, though. It is it's like I don't get a bonus if they win. Nothing changes if you – it's just a gut punch to everybody else. And when you do cover the Jags for so long and there's only been one winning year, like it's exhausting sometimes, man. It's exhausting. You want to find a little hope. And I think with all the offseason of hope and Urban Meyer and this guy doesn't lose and Trevor Lawrence, and again, that's where I still am on that train big time. And I'm not even off the Urban train. I don't believe that I don't think Urban all of a sudden overnight's a bad coach. I was a little perplexed at what we saw yesterday. I'll give you that. But these guys don't lose big, and I still think that's going to translate to the NFL. That's not what we're after here, though. We're after winning big. So I don't think they're going to be 2-15 every year under Urban Meyer with Trevor Lawrence. I think that's just not going to happen. That's me. I've long believed that. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they'll get way better this week and better as the year goes along, and I don't know how many wins that even means. But that was disheartening yesterday, you know. And some of it's we create the narrative with Houston and then everybody else does, but some of it's real. I mean, it is Tyrod Taylor. It is a Houston team that's got everybody on a one-year deal. I mean, it should have looked better than that for the Jacksonville Jaguars, without question. So it's disheartening for, I think, everybody in the Jacksonville area to see what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Texans are going to be that good this year. It wasn't supposed to look like that, let's just say. I think that's where the frustration mounts more than anything. I think it was a good litmus test to see exactly where this team is at and how well they approach training camp. And now you're sitting here being left with more questions than answers. And I'll be honest with you, if you want to know how bad it really is, I have the Tennessee Titans official Twitter page liking my tweets now. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at as a radio station who covers the Jaguars. The Titans are taking note, and now they're liking my stuff. And the Titans got beat by how much? So, but it's all good though. Titans are liking my stuff. Jaguars Twitter doesn't follow me anymore. It's just a good It's chaos,
yeah,
man.
And that's
it's
all
chaos.
because I guess like the Jags are cleaning out their Twitter feed and dropping fans that they did follow. I think there's I saw bits and pieces of that. I haven't seen the whole thing, right?
Thanks for stopping on by, Jaguars Twitter. We had fun while it lasted.
Did they unfollow you?
Oh, dude, I'm not followed.
I'm wondering. I don't even know if I'm followed. I mean, I might not be.
Stop! You're followed. You're followed. Company man, corporate show. Brent Martineau not followed by the Jacksonville Jaguars. You got to be joking. You're definitely followed.
That's not true.
What do you mean it's not true? They are following you.
Are they following me?
Brent, go ahead right now. Go on Twitter. Click on their Twitter page and tell me they don't follow you back. Do it right now.
Okay, they follow me.
Okay, there you go.
I mean, but wouldn't you? 23,000 others do too.
Yeah, there you go, man. There you go, man. How many years did you play for him again? How many years did you play for him?
Hey, none.
Cool.
I feel like I could have yesterday.
Hey.
Or some days.
Cheers.
Did they follow you at one time and now they don't?
Yeah.
Wow, so you're in that list. That's wild.
Didn't make the purge.
Awesome.
Didn't make the cut. I'm not sure if it was my Christmas vacation tweet from yesterday that put him over the edge or what. But what do you want me to tell y'all?
A little hurt feelings in there. So.
I apologize for nothing. And by the way, I'm not saying I'm open for business, but the Titans keep sliding in the likes and the DMs. Just saying.
I mean, come on. Urban just asked you to try out like last week here on the show.
I know, man. It's crazy how we go from having fun to now we're here.
Yeah. Let's get Steven on the line real quick. I know he's been hanging around. Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690. More than welcome, by the way, to jump in today on a Monday. Should we yet call it a miserable Monday? It certainly isn't a Minshew Monday, but it's 904-362-9901. What's up, Steven?
Hey, not too much, guys. How are you guys doing today? Besides being miserable.
Yeah, man. I'm just trying to crack jokes as much as I can, just try to get through it. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Well, I'll try and make it quick before I start rambling because there was a lot of stuff that I did not like. I guess I could say Lovie Smith planned it right because I'm sure Austin noticed that pretty much every play, loading up the box, bringing up the linebackers to the line, showing blitz, and he's coached right for Trevor Lawrence. Normally they tried to run a lot of RPOs that I saw. Linebackers come up to the line. Trevor Lawrence thinks the blitz is coming. I'm going to pull it from the running back. The middle will be open. He looks up. Guess what? The linebackers are in zone coverage again. And, I mean, it was just the whole game. I mean, a lot of times he pulled the ball from the runners, and I think they should have just let them tote the rock the whole time, or at least most of the time. And one more fact I want to get across. A lot of teams that we predicted to really stink really showed out yesterday. Look at the Eagles and look at Jameis Winston and the Saints really proving everybody wrong in that game.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen.
First
by the
of
way,
all, the Eagles proving everybody – certainly not me.
Not you.
Proving everybody wrong? Certainly not me.
Just a warning for everybody.
Couldn't be
the Jags beat the Colts last year in Week 1, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Just remember, Week 1's a little different animal, so you can get your chest puffed out for a week. But be careful. Just be careful.
Be careful about the Eagles, or what are we being
careful
careful
about? The Eagles. Be careful about Houston. Be
Jalen
careful
Hurts
about.
good.
Be careful about anybody who won.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts looked pretty good. Saints, be careful a little bit, maybe.
Well, the Saints. I mean, the Saints aren't one of those kind of teams. I mean, the Saints have a lot of quality players. The question is Jameis Winston, right? And
yeah,
he looked really good.
Yeah.
So, and I want to talk a little bit about that, like almost a no-show Sunday from some teams. I mean,
yeah,
just didn't show up for work, man.
No, for sure. And to echo Steven's point about, Lovie Smith, too. I mean, he's kind of like the Tampa 2 king in terms of defensive schemes. But, yeah, I thought he did it. He knew what he had. He knew what he was going against. He's going against a rookie quarterback who hasn't seen it all. So then what do? You throw things that he hasn't seen before and confuse him. And I think you saw a little bit of that from Trevor. I think he pressed a little bit. That's where the interceptions came into play. I thought it was overall a pretty decent job by Smith. Obviously a guy who's been on defensive staffs for a long time now, back in the NFL after his short stint in Illinois. And, yeah, he had a good first call of a game, I think.
Yeah, by the way, it gets more complicated next week, I think, with a Vic Fangio defense. And a very good defense. So even more complicated from a mental standpoint for Trevor Lawrence.
The last compliment I promised on the Houston Texans, but Lovie Smith's beard.
Oh, so good.
Jay, you just keep doing you. What did Steve from Blue's Clues say? Hey, you're looking good, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Yeah, that's what Steve said.
All right, we'll be back live from Sneakers at Jack's Beach. Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690. More Jags, more NFL talk.
When Sandra doesn't talk to a Mattress Firm sleep expert, junk sleep presses the wrong buttons in her brain. And Sandra presses the wrong buttons in the elevator, leading to a dreadful journey for her and the accountants now headed up to floor 42. 7, 8, 9. While Sandra avoids eye contact, let's reflect on how a better mattress would have led to real sleep. If you need real sleep, head to Mattress Firm and unjunk your sleep today.